How graceful was that? Welcome everyone to the Football Roundup warm-up show. We go live on Radio ENRG in about 28 minutes time, if we're being very exact. The purpose of this show is just to have just a quick chat, guys. Gregor and Bryce with the stories of the day, which mainly is the Champions League draw. We're going to be talking about this in the show. There were some huge ties during the week, some incredible games of football, some astonishing comebacks, storylines, you name it. But we're down to 4, and it's Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and Liverpool, Roma. So, gentlemen, what are your immediate thoughts?
I'm really excited by the Roma-Liverpool tie. It's good to see, we were discussed this the other night actually, it's good to see a lot of the kind of, not old-fashioned, but teams, say in the 80s and 90s who were really successful in Europe, and see kind of a kind of old-fashioned kind of tie like that, and maybe a team that would be considered an underdog in terms of going to the final will actually be in the final. So that's quite exciting.
Good tie for Liverpool, Jack?
Yeah, definitely. They're two teams that are fit. They play attacking football. Clearly, you don't score 3 goals against Barcelona without pressing up the pitch. Liverpool as well. We know the likes of Salah, Firmino, even Mane, when he's on his game, they're more than capable than grabbing 2 or more goals each in some cases. So it'll be I think it should be a good attacking fair, lots of excitement, and hopefully a good spectacle.
And then Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. These guys have met quite a few times over the past few years.
They met last year in the quarterfinals.
They met last year in the quarterfinals. Bayern Munich were knocked out in pretty dubious, controversial circumstances, and Bayern Munich actually the past 4 years of the Champions League they've been knocked out by Spanish opposition every single year. So can they get over their curse?
I would say they're probably underdogs when you consider how Real Madrid have been the last 2 seasons in Europe. But if Real Madrid play anything like they did the other night against Juventus, they will probably get knocked out by Bayern Munich. It's funny considering Bayern Munich are basically being not ignored, but have just completely flown under the radar so far in the Champions League. Talked about PSG, they got knocked out, Man City, Barcelona, and now they're one of the teams that could quite feasibly win it.
And I think one of the things that excites me so much about this draw and just the 4 teams that are left are just the number of storylines that are left in this competition. You think about Real Madrid and Bayern Munich and the history they had last year, and then you take into account James Rodriguez on loan from Real Madrid to Bayern Munich and is playing very well by all accounts this season. Is he going to be able to play? Do we know it's a repeat of the sort of Thibaut Courtois situation a few years ago between Atletico Madrid and Chelsea? Yeah. That's just going to be fascinating if he is allowed to play, if he gets to have a go against his former team. And then you look at Roma and Liverpool. Obviously, Mo Salah, Liverpool's star man this season, 39 goals so far. Obviously, playing against the club that he moved from in the summer. Just storylines everywhere. And then you were saying, obviously, it's so good to have Roma back in this stage of the competition. It's their first semi-final since 1984. That season, they were beaten by Liverpool in the European Cup final in Rome, and
it's an omen.
They have been, I think, if you talk to any Roman, they will have been waiting for revenge.
It's a Roman.
I know, an omen, a Roman. So they will have been waiting for this day to exact revenge for a long time. And it's probably, for Roma, it's probably the biggest game since that 2001 season where they won the league title with Francesco Totti for the first time in so many years.
I bet he's kicking himself. He's
just retired, right? But we forget, because Roma over the past few seasons, I think, they've suffered some pretty tough results in the Champions League. I think they've been beaten 7-1 by Bayern Munich and Manchester United. They've been beaten 6-1 by Barcelona, and it's just a reminder that they are, one of European football's biggest and most important teams. And they have a rich history, and I think it's just great to have them in the Final Four. And it's going to be a shame when Liverpool knock them out, but let's just move on from it.
It's also really promising for Italian football, because I think there was a mini slump maybe the early 2010s where they weren't really reaching semi-finals or finals, and now we've had Juventus get the final last year, the final 2015, nearly 2 Italian teams in the semi-final. We've got Roma obviously this year. So it's good to see that Italian football certainly looks like it is on the rise.
Mm-hmm. And if we're talking about more symmetry and more stars aligning, the last time that an English team, an Italian team, a German team, and a Spanish team made up the semi-finals of the Champions League.
Who won it?
Was in 1981. Who won it? Liverpool. They beat Real Madrid 1-0 in Paris.
Oh, it was Real Madrid as well.
It was Real Madrid as well. So, and they beat Bayern Munich in the semi-finals. So there you go. Moving on. other story of the day that has come out is that the Premier League has voted unanimously.
I think
The majority of clubs in the
unanimously.
Premier League have voted that VAR will not be used in the Premier League next season. It has been trialled this season in cup competitions such as the League Cup and the FA Cup, and it has, fair to say, Bryce, it has led to some pretty controversial moments and some pretty confusing circumstances.
Yeah, definitely. It was one of these things when it came in, folk were asking all the time, when is it going to be used? Will it be used in the right situation? And from the games like the Tottenham game where it was used,
I bet they voted against it.
yeah, it just really slowed down the pace of the game, didn't make it enjoyable for fans, and if it's not enjoyable for fans, clubs aren't going to want that, because obviously you want the fans to come along and support you. So it's not really a surprising move, I would say. I was never really a big fan of VAR in football.
I think it takes away from the overall experience as well. Not only can often when you're in the stadium at times not actually see what's going on when the VAR decision is happening, sometimes you're even scared to celebrate a goal, so like we saw when Tottenham played in the FA Cup. I think the first 2 goals got disallowed, and when they finally did score, they didn't know whether to celebrate or not because they weren't sure if it was going to be allowed. And I don't think that's something that you can add to football, because that's what makes it unique. It's got that kind of instant
Rough
kind of
edge.
it's got the kind of spur of the moment things, like a surprise goal, and you can't take that away.
The key thing, though, is that it will continue to be used in a sort of trial format next season again in those competitions such as the FA Cup
It'll
and the
be
League
the
Cup.
World Cup as well, obviously.
And of course, we're going to have the World Cup this summer, which is going to be absolutely mad, because there are going to be referees that have never used VAR in their life who are suddenly going to be in the situation where they're officiating some of the biggest games of world football, and VAR is going to be there. It's going to be mad.
It's going to be fun.
But I think that the point is that it's very much a system that they're keen to implement, and they're keen to refine, and they're keen to work it out. And I think we are unanimous in saying that we're keen for that to happen, and we want that to happen.
I mean, it might be the kind of thing that as it does get used more, referees become more used to it, and it does, as you say, get more refined. But at the moment, the signs aren't very promising.
Well, we're going to be talking about all the games from the week in full on the Football Roundup at 4 o'clock on Radio ENRG. But an example from the week: the penalty in the 93rd minute in the Real Madrid Juventus game, the tackle from which we definitely will discuss, the tackle from Benatia. People are still debating it now. That's one of the situations where VAR would have been used, but if it had been used, people would have still been debating it.
Exactly. Exactly. The thing is, it's not as clear cut as goaling technology, where it's a simple yes or no decision. Exactly. It's still open to interpretation.
So, there is so much to discuss this week. Definitely a good week to tune in to the Football Roundup on Radio ENRG. We're going to be talking about Liverpool, Man City, Real Madrid, Juventus, Roma, Barcelona, and then Europa League, because Europa League at the moment.
That was better than the Champions League.
Well,
last
I wouldn't go that far, but
very close.
The fact that Leipzig Marseille is potentially only the 4th best game of the week, debatable.
Really
says something, because that game finished 5-2.
Yeah.
And there are some really cool storylines there. You talk about prestigious European clubs. Marseille being in a semi-final of a major competition for the first time since 2004 is very much a good thing. I'm very much behind that.
Very much behind that.
I am.
Campaign.
It's great because
it's a French team that isn't PSG or Monaco doing well.
It is.
There's teams that were not
honestly
used to.
You should have heard the noise when they scored that 5th goal last night. It was incredible, even watching it on TV. And PSG have good fans. Monaco are weird. They're playing this weird stadium, don't they? And it's there's not much of an atmosphere going on. It's really nice, I think, seeing a big French club like Marseille in a latter stage of the competition.
Yeah.
And of course, Arsenal Atletico, that's a huge tie. So all that and more to be discussed on the Football Roundup with, of course, our host, David Roney, who is meticulously making notes as we speak. So we'll catch you at 4 o'clock.